Lethal Blaze is a fighting game with a heavy emphasis on system mechanics. This has a couple of effects, such as matchups usually not being as polarizing as in other fighting games, or being able to pick up other characters fairly quickly. Nonetheless, there is still a good bit a character specialist is able to pull out. I'll be mentioning some of these system mechanics but not explaining them properly in here, as this is supposed to be a character focused video. I'd recommend being familiar with my other tips video and or both in-game tutorials if you want to know more about system mechanics. With that out of the way, let's get started. Toxic is a unique character in Lethal Blaze, being the only character to be able to manipulate the stage with a hazard. Her playstyle revolves around calculated maneuvers and the strategic application of the spray to overwhelm opponents and force them into doing mistakes. Toxic thrives on mind games and capitalizes on the confusion caused by it. While usually ranked on the lower end of the tier list, Toxic, as any character, is a viable choice. Mechanically, she isn't the most difficult character, but overall I would place her a bit above average, as utilizing her traps effectively takes a good amount of effort to pull off in-game. Movement and movement option. Toxic is among the heaviest characters in the cast. It only makes sense with such a big arm. This means that she doesn't get a whole lot of airtime even when utilizing her float, making it harder for her to contest people in the air. Her unique movement ability is that she gets to cling to the wall. This is useful for waiting out pressure, double jump resets, or tech that I will talk about later in this video. She shares that ability with Raptor's wall jump and latch wall climb, but unfortunately is in a lot of scenarios just a downgrade. With that being the case, it's still not unusable and serves its function well. Toxic's ability evolves all around her spray, so let's talk about that first. Toxic Spray, sometimes referred to as just Tag, is a stage hazard that if the ball comes in contact with, it changes possession to Toxic and launches the ball directly at the opponent. While at first thought this sounds not that bad, keep in mind that the opponent will also be aware that the ball will come for them, thus they only have to face it and press a button. It may seem like the spray would have good cross-up capabilities, but due to the way swinging covers half of your hurt box, it rarely, if ever, works like that. It can also mess up the timing of your opponent's catch, as the spray has its own fixed hit lag. This is incredibly effective against people unfamiliar with the matchup, but only rarely works against people already used to it. Now, how do we get the spray out? When you activate your special, the spray will be released at your currently selected angle choice. If you choose the up angle, the spray will be placed at the first surface it touches of said up angle. Same for your down angle. If you're using a smash angle, you have no choice but to launch it at the smash angle. So on and so forth. The important part is that you're in no way forced to send the ball at the same angle than the spray. You can very well choose to fire your spray at an up angle while you send the ball straight, keeping your spray intact while sending the ball out. Alternatively, you're also able to wall cling and press the swing button to place a manual spray down. This uses up your special meter as normally. Being able to get sprays out active on the stage is a very important foundation for Toxic players, and is what enables her to get started with overloading your opponent's mental. Countless times I send a spray up and the ball straight, and my opponent just gets hit because they waited for the spray to get triggered first. To add on to this layer of Toxic special, it can also just be used to retain ball control by bunting as it gets released from the spray. In this scenario, I will lose the ball no matter what angle I choose, but by using my special and bunting out of it, I get to keep on comboing. This can get a bit inconsistent if you're further away from the spray, as the angle the spray sends the ball at is decided by your opponent's position, but still a very important tool to use. In that function, it's very similar to other characters bun cancelling their specials. This about sums it up on the mechanics of the special, but we'll be talking more about special usage in the tech and setup section. Angle choices. Toxic's angle spread is fairly standard, being very similar to Raptor. Her up angle is a standard pizza angle, forcing tap charges against cornered opponents. Her ground down facing the wall can also create a fairly strong knowledge check that at around kill speed can still be used as a parry bait instead. F-Spike is a big outlier and in my opinion a horrible angle to try and kill with, but it serves a good function as a speed modifier reset and due to its shallow nature lets you combo the ball very easily. On smaller stages it can also be used as an unexpected cross-up, but it's fairly gimmicky. Smash angle is nothing groundbreaking, although its rotation is good enough to kill people if they're starting to get distracted by a spray in play. B-Spike is just slow enough to catch some people off guard while it's rotating back to them, but also some cool uses and combos such as catching it with a turnaround bunt or rising bunt at low to mid speed. Tech dump and setups. Parrybaits. Parrybaits in essence is intercepting the ball right in front of your opponent, punishing them for properly covering your angle. This is something every character can do in some way, but the way Toxic can do it is rather special and is also what I'm known for. The spray sending the ball directly at the opponent is considered a pretty bad ability, but with Parrybaits you can make people second guess if they really want to react to that spray with a button. This concept is being somewhere between the spray and your opponent and finding a way to catch the ball before your opponent without overlapping hitboxes. That last part doesn't sound that important, but if ignored leads to you and your opponent catching the ball at the same time, which leads to a clash. While not being the worst thing to happen, you would much rather have this end up in a kill. My most common setups to achieve that are ground spray conversion. Pretty standard and something every Toxic player should be able to do. Mid-height to ceiling conversion. If you're at a single jump height and hit the ball into a ceiling spray, you need to do a small hop after landing on the ground to make sure you don't clash. Raptor's swing hitbox is small enough that you don't actually have to jump, but I would still recommend it as it's a good habit to have. Reverse mid-height conversion. A cheeky way to set up a parrybait of covering a ground spray. Works the same way as the mid-height conversion with the added turnaround. You can also just choose to keep the ball and just threaten the option instead to keep your opponent guessing. Ceiling height conversion. If you're at the ceiling, hitting the ball into a ceiling spray, you need to fall to the ground with a smash, which catches the ball right before your opponent. Note that Raptor's standing swing hitbox is too small for this to work, so you have to either resort to something different or try your luck with a spike instead. Speaking from experience, spikes can work just fine, but have a higher risk of clashing. Those are specific setups I like to use, but keep in mind to never get too predictable with what you're trying to do, and that you can also usually parrybait off straight sprays as well. What I'm saying is don't hyperfixate on trying to parrybait, just bunting out of spray can also be a good option. Turtle Tech. Toxic is able to fully engulf herself in the spray hitbox by crouching in a ground spray. Note that this does not work with the wall sprays, as part of her body will always stick out in that case. This is incredibly stupid tech and I would only ever recommend you to do this if you're panicking. It's very easy for your opponent to just stay cool and set up their own mix while you're doing nothing in your spray. In addition, people can also hit you with a charged swing while you're crouching, forcing you out of the spray. Wall Tech. By far the tech Toxic players are the most fascinated with. Wall Tech is utilizing Toxic's double jump reset from her wall cling to keep the ball near the ceiling and loop that process for however long she wants. It's mostly used to generate bar to set up a double spray, but be very careful to not overdo it as it's fairly easy to interrupt and punish with a parry. There are several ways to do Wall Tech, those being forward drift bunting, rising bunt backwards, swing, down bunt, B-spike, rising bunt, swing. And this shit. Or my personal favorite, as it is the fastest, let go of the wall, rising bunt, swing. The timing for that variation is a bit weird to start out with, but with a bit of practice you can get used to it. Double spray. Mostly done with wall tech, but can also be done with straight sprays. During the time the ball is in the hit lag of the first spray, you can already place another one, immediately hitting the ball again once the hit lag of the first spray ends. In addition of it just looking cool, it also catches a lot of people off guard due to it being rather rare to pull off in actual games. And despite it being fairly telegraphed against people that know about it, it still kills much more than it should. If it's too obvious, you can also do a parry bait of double spray. Parrygrab Bait. Every character has their own height at which they release the ball after they throw it. This is not an exception in parry grabs as well. If a throw releases the ball low enough, it can actually connect with a ground spray, killing the player parry grabbing without them being able to retaliate. This works on ground sprays against Candy, Dice, Switch, Jet, Sonata, Latch. Other characters will just parry grab you normally. You can also set it up with a wall spray if you're near the corner, but this is incredibly hyper specific, making it a very rare option. This will work exactly once against every player, after which they learned their lesson. Considering I did this against most players already, good luck trying to find someone unaware of this. Regardless, it forces people to respect your parry. Fakeout Spray. Toxic's wall spray has a deceivingly small hitbox. This can be used to your advantage by hitting the ball at the wall, choosing up angle spray, but sending the ball with air down. This leads to the ball being released while not touching the spray, which can be quite a jump scare for a lot of people. Delay Spray. Whenever you send out a spray, it has its own travel time before actually touching the wall. This almost never matters, but if you special right before hit lag ends and send both your spray and ball straight, the ball will bounce back to you before the spray can turn active. This leads to wonky visuals, which can be pretty disorientating and definitely catch your opponent off guard the first time you show this option. On bigger stages, you can even bunt the ball on its way back, further expanding your options. This ball does have to be past 120 speed at the least for this to work, and has to be even faster the smaller the stage is. Grab Deny Delay. If the opponent hits a ball that is currently inside of the spray, Toxic is able to grab it safely. If she gets grab denied, the timing of the release will change, which can catch your opponent off guard. This is much more of a gimmick, but a fun knowledge check to go for. Ultra Niche Tech. Parry Spray. For whatever reason, hitting a spray with an angle while holding parry makes the spray have an active parry hitbox as well. This seems to be an extremely brief window and only works at high ball speed as well. And while it would be pretty insane option to hit, you will need 7 blue moons to align for getting the chance to do this setup, as it requires both the spray and your opponent to be at a very specific position. Deleting Spray. Taunting or emoting with any of the 4 emotes will lead to your spray being deleted. While it sounds like a reasonable mix-up, it unfortunately is a high risk, low reward mix-up, as the taunt recovery is just way too long. If your opponent gets the ball while you're attempting this, it's a free punish for them. And even if you get to do it unpunished, most opponents would probably rather thank you for removing the spray rather than getting mixed. This would be the one scenario I can imagine this working in, but I can think of 10 different things I would rather do in this position. This also puts a lot of trust in your opponent expecting the spray to be hit and specifically waiting for it. This about sums it up. I tried to keep it as simple as possible, but this still ended up a bit too complicated. If you have any questions, or if you're looking for people to play with, feel free to join the LB Stadium, the community server of this game, to ask me or other people whatever's on your mind. We're more than happy to help. We also have regular tournaments and a monthly new player bracket. I might also do similar videos for the other characters too, but if I do, I will keep it much simpler and stick to explaining the special abilities and tech. Thank you for watching this far. Editing together stuff like this is a good bit of work, so if you want to say, wow, what a good video this, in my streams on twitch.tv/Desily, self-plug, sometimes I even stream this game, I would appreciate it. Yeah, with that, see ya.